Ellesmere Port is in many ways a typical industrial town. Its present size and comparative wealth are based on oil refining and the production of motor cars. Our town has modern housing estates and many new schools. It's difficult for us to realise that Ellesmere Port has a history. What brought people here before, and why such an odd name, Ellesmere Port?
It was called Whitby Locks in them days. Yeah. And if you wanted to get to Liverpool, they used to come a boat along to the pier head, and you could go on the boat up to Eastham and then cross over to Liverpool.
It was really country. It was a really little village, you know. Only two streets in Ellesmere Port, and that was Dock Street and Queen Street. But they altered Queen. It was Poole Street in the days when I was a little girl, and they altered it to Queen Street. And those were the only two streets in Ellesmere Port.
Just a couple of impressions from Mr. Letcham and Mrs. Dodd, two people who lived and grew up in Ellesmere Port at the turn of the century. Being a group of school students, we had to ask about the schools of that time. Mrs. Dodd sets the scene.
One ring of his bell at his desk was pens down. The second bell was arms folded on the desk. The third bell, we had to listen.
Mr. Letcham told us how his school day started.
Well, we go to school, and the first thing you did there was line up in the schoolyard, only a small one, and then the master would come round and he'd inspect your ears, your neck, your hands and your boots, and if they wasn't clean, you was sorry for when you got in. Eh? Not like you just stuck into school today, don't you?
One teacher had a very simple method of dealing with boys who made a nuisance of themselves.
The boys, if they did anything very bad that he didn't like, he'd get them across the desk and he'd call it trousering them. He used to clap them on the bottom with his cane. And they knew he was vexed when he did that. He used to dance around with his cane in his mouth.
We feel it's only fair to say that we collected many pleasant memories of school as well. But enough of school. After all, kids didn't spend all day there. What did they do when school was over? There was no radio, never mind TV. What could kids possibly find to do? Karen asked Mrs. Dodd this very question.
After school, entertainment for us. We had to make our own entertainment. There was no pictures, no swimming pool, nothing in those days when I was a little girl.
And Mr. Letcham told us of a game that he played in the street. How many of you have played this very game more than 60 years later?
Kick the can. That was sort of hide and seek business. You know, you'd have a can in the ring and one would kick it and you'd all fly and whoever got caught was on him.
There was a cinema in Ellesmere Port at that time, but Mrs. Dodd recalls a weekly event that took place in the local church hall.
They used to have penny readings every Saturday night, and they'd bring perhaps a little group or anybody that would like to sing a song or say a recitation. But one man came over once and he sang a song at one of these penny readings that was all over Ellesmere Port after he finished.
And then Mrs. Dodd sang us a verse of this song.
They've all gone to bed, they've all gone to bed, the missus is lazy and the kids, they've gone to roost among the quilts but a kind garden wall. Took off the pair of tens, without any boots or daisy roots, or slept with the cocks and hens.
What did kids get up to when they were away from parents and teachers? Were they any different from kids today? Annette asks about the old tradition of stealing apples. Did you ever go scrumping?
Oh yes. Put that on there. There was orchards all round then. No matter where you went, you get to orchards and help yourself. Well, if you bought them, they give you pull-a slip for about 6 pence. and pick it up.
We often wonder if our parents are more strict than parents 70 years ago. Julie asked Mr. Ledsham about parents, and we got a story about policemen as well.
Oh, you tell me they were strict. And so was the bobbies. There were only 2 or 3 bobbies, I think, but once you'd been caught by him, you didn't get caught again. You all used to carry a walking stick. And if he copped you, you got it. He never sentenced you. You get 2 or 3 whacks with that, you watch, he didn't catch you anymore.
Bonfire night and the burning of fire is as old as man himself, sometimes very ritualistic and serious, but always an opportunity for youthful revelry. Mr. Ledsham recalls one November the 5th.
Oh, well, I had big bonfire, and the fireworks then wasn't like today. You used to call them squibs, be about that long, and you get 20 or more on a string for a penny. See? And you could hold these in your fingers. You go pang. But you had more sport with them than what you had with these things today. Just such as you want a good laugh, like you got a dog and tied one to its tail, see? And when it sparked off, you see the dog go.
In historical terms, 60 or 70 years is very little, but many of the things we now think of as essential just did not exist for ordinary people in 1907. Nick asked Mrs. Dodd about toothache.
If we had toothache? Well, I don't know, I'm sure. I don't think we ever had the toothache. I don't remember anybody having the toothache.
Mr. and Mrs. Ledsham discussed the doctor, toothache and some useful remedies with Annette and Julie.
You have to suffer in silence and buy a Rockets powder or something.
Oh, you had to pay the doctor them days.
Oh, Lord,
He would be paying as he come to see you.
you don't be ill.
What if you had bad teeth?
If you have the tooth, you have to try
Well,
and get it out yourself.
I don't know about bad teeth, I don't remember ever having any.
Don't remember.
No, not of our family.
My dad used to dig his out with a penknife.
Christmas was remembered with fond memories for Mr. and Mrs. Ledsham and Mrs. Dodd, who were children at the turn of the century. But Mrs. Ledsham recalls the struggle it must have been for their parents.
And used to struggle for months,
Yeah.
putting little bits by to make a Christmas because they didn't have anything all the year round, if you understand. It was Christmas.
Yeah.
The kids had a toy, 6-penny toy from Woolworths, and they thought they were smashing.
Another tradition, probably as old as man, is the singing of ritual songs at festive times. Mrs. Dodd told us how she went carol singing.
The whole choir used to go, and those liked to join in from the church. Oh yes, we had some jolly good carol singing. It was lovely. And then Mother would have a mince pies and hot tea ready for them when they got round.
As well as all the usual festive occasions, Ellesmere Port had an unusual fete. The spring fete took place in the grounds of Grace Hall, the home of the Grace family.
They opened their grounds for an afternoon fete. You know, I got drenched twice going to those fete, coming back home in a thunderstorm. Twice, I never went again. So they used to have dancing, the band, they had a lovely band. There was 2 bands in Ellesmere Port, the church band and the Primitive Methodist band. And they used to head always head the procession. And my brother-in-law was the drum major. He used to dress up in all kinds of funny things. He'd dress up like a Jude, a gentleman, and then he'd dress up like a nigger.
Karen wrote a song to try and capture the atmosphere of the fete. People came from many miles to the fete to join in the games and dancing and to see the queen of the fete crowned by the lady from Grace Hall.
People coming one by one to Whitby Park and Grace Hall, the carnival's here with clowns and all, it's carnival day. The whole of Whitby's here today, the old folk joke and the children play. Donkey races, everyone laughs, it's carnival day. Here she is, the queen of the Maypeg, but the lady from the hall. She's the prettiest of them all. She's so pretty on Carnival Day. People come from miles around, they come here for the carnival. Frodsham, Helvey and Dunham Hill, from Dunham Hill it's Carnival Day.
Ironically enough, Grace Hall has been for many years Borough Council offices, and the only real monument to the Grace family is the nearby pub, the Grace Arms. After the festivals and fetes, street games and school, work had to be done. Here's Mrs. Dodd talking about her experiences.
And then there was nothing for girls in those days after they had left school, only what we called going to service. That was in gentlemen's houses. You'd go and work there. But I was only in 2 places and I ran away from both.
And Mr. Ledsham told us of his first job.
I went in the grocery shop, corner of Queen Street, 5 shillings a week. And you started at 8 in the morning and you finished at 8 at night. And on the Friday you was lucky if you got home for 11. And on the Saturday you was lucky if you got home for 2 in the Sunday morning.
Here is a question we ask many times in as many different ways, and Mr. Ledsham gives a straight answer. Was living in those days better than living today?
No, definitely not.
No.
We're better off today than we've ever been, to be honest.
Of course, there's no real answer to a question like that. Here's Mr. and Mrs. Ledsham trying to sum up the difference.
But in a way of speaking, I compare that
life
life to the life we lead
It's
today.
a different life altogether. You can't really imagine it, you know, today.